Hello there, welcome back to the Youth Here Keep. My name is Faye Webster. I will be your host today as we... geez, I almost thought I lost the key. It's been a while since we've been in here. But it is, defense time. I figured I would show off. We had a pretty good season, only took minus 60. It's been a while, but I figured the game has become a little bit... perhaps a little bit more playable recently, perhaps not. I kind of want to talk about the meta, so we're just gonna put these replays in the background while we talk about the meta. My team is an infantry pasta because I have Italian heritage, and I cannot deny that the man makes incredible pasta. So we're checking it out. What do I have? It's these units. It's very similar. I think the key difference that I am running is Embla instead of Gatekeeper, because Duo Fjorm is a menace to society. The problem is that a bunch of units who are also menaces to society are more countered by Gatekeeper instead, so we'll see the trade-offs in action. But anyway, what I want to talk about is the current meta of the game, actually, because I watched Tacho's video about this recently, and it got me thinking, and this isn't like a response to Tacho, I'm not saying I disagree or think he's wrong or anything, but it just made me want to express my thoughts on the current state of the game. And I do think that the game right now is in a bit of a better place than it was for a few months there, when it was truly the Emblem Ike meta. It was literally just every week I just ended turn with Ike 8 times, maybe 9 if someone stopped him. And that was the AR season. And it was not it was not much of a game. It felt bad to do, it felt bad to have it done to you. And since then they have tried a million ways to counter him, and this is the meta we live in now, by the way. They tried to counter him so many different ways, and some of them worked sometimes, none of them worked all the time, really, and people just kind of found more and more ways to use him, which is like, it's nice when there are like counters for the counters, I think. I think it's sort of undesirable when the game is just like, here is the unit that makes the old unit unusable, but at the same time, when they are trying to print the unit that makes the old unit unusable, and it doesn't work, I think that's also a bad sign, because a unit as strong as Ike just required such an unbelievably hard counter. Required such an unbelievably hard counter that it just sort of made most of the other units in the game, most of the like Omni tanks and even sort of Saviors, also just unplayable, right? Like, Ike was so far above them and could not be stopped, but everything they tried to stop him with also kind of stopped the rest of those units. So I think it created an undesirable place to be, which leads us to Chooser Legends 8, which I think, while it has taken it away from being a single unit meta, I feel like it's almost been a reset to the meta, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. I kind of want to use this replay as an example. So this player played unbelievably well. This is what I like to see. I like when I have a defense that requires like actual really inspired play to win against. And part of my thesis here is that the CYL units represent such a power spike that it's like, any other units than them are basically not even worth playing. Like, I made a defense that almost went flawless, was getting most people to surrender at the title screen, and it's basically just, you know, 2 mythics, half of the CYL 8 banner, and then like whatever else I had lying around. And it would honestly be better if this was Bernadetta instead. I could have just put her here and it would be a better team. So like 3 out of 4, congratulations, you will be successful on defense this week. Now this is a team that mostly didn't rely that heavily on the CYL 8 units, although to do a player phase strategy you have to use Felix right now. I feel like that is a problem. So basically this is going to be, you know, smart use of their turns and actions, and as you can see we have this unit and this unit who are going to shut down a lot of actions to make up the gap in what you can't get done in one turn anymore, because it is so hard to get things done in one turn with all this nonsense and how bulky these units get, right? But what I object to about this is that while it is cool to see these strategies, while I do like that people can use these strategies, even that involve some older units, which are like still from this year, I think. Maybe to say they're 1 year old, I don't even remember. The thing is, like, So let's imagine that I'm tired of using CYL8 units, right? I've been using a lot of like Vantage Bernie, a lot of tank slash support Alphons with Ike, and a lot of player phase with Felix. Let's say that I'm tired of using these new units off the CYL8 banner, and I want to try this strategy. Well, the strategy revolves around the end turn effect, which I'm pretty sure is on 3 units in the game right now. It's this one, and Mythic Sather. One of those is an Astro Mythic, so I can't use her in this season. 2 of them are these seasonals, which I can't get right now, and I don't have this unit. I happen to have this one, but I don't have this one, so it's like, okay, other units are viable, sure, but it doesn't help me that they are. I'm aware that they're in the game, but they might as well not be for me right now. Again, this player played really well. I don't mean to, like, be talking... I'm talking trash on Faye, not on them. They're doing everything right. I'm a fool for not getting Leon in the first place, I guess, is the point here. But what I'm trying to say is that I really do feel like CYL8 made older units basically unplayable, right? Like, anyone who can't get smacked by Felix right now is not safe to be on the map. Even my, like, Gatry build that I've been using sometimes just gets one-tapped by Felix. I give him Party Fighter now, which I think does a pretty good job of mitigating that, but I don't think it 100%... I think Felix can still beat him in 2 or 3 actions, which... if that is not enough, what is? And then, I think, here's the other units, like, as a support nuke on AR defense, no unit comes close to what Robin does in terms of making stuff to break so your team can't get player phase. That is literally the best possible support you can offer there. Bernadetta is, like, somehow probably the best nuke in the game, like, one of, what, 2, 3, 4 units who can reliably take down Duo Fjorm? I don't actually know the number. I can name that one, and I hear that Fagato doesn't even really do it because he doesn't double her. So it's like, they printed a counter to her that doesn't counter. It's a mess, it's a mess. What am I saying? So it's like, the presence of a unit like, let's say, Brave Female Robin, right? Every classic Gale Force, or pretty much every unit that actually needs to run Gale Force to get additional action, just feels unplayable to me right now. I really wanted to build Summer Ingrid, because her Refine seems so fun to use for Gale Force. But it's just, what is the point? How do I get her in? Do special charges as a buff even help anymore? It's like, why would I not just use Felix and Winter Edelgard, who, by the way, is like basically unplayable now anyway, who don't even need to run Gale Force and can actually run a damaging special to get the damage that you need to bust through something like Brave Alphons or Duo Fjorm. And here I am getting player phased by a different unit, but it's because I'm using I had the audacity to use a 9-month-old Far Savior instead of the 9-day-old Far Savior. That's my bad. I hadn't pulled her yet when I made this defense. I have her now. She'll get added next time I update it. But that's the game. So I'm kind of talking in circles. But do you understand what I'm saying? It's just the presence of a unit like Duo Felix, or with like Brave Felix, has such gravity in the player's hands or the computer's hands that it's like you can't bring any unit on the map that can't take a hit from him because of his insane mobility. And the game is now balanced around stuff like this that expects the kind of action economy Felix brings, which means that even units who just got a refine a couple months ago that I was excited about trying to play with, I can't think of a way to use them effectively. I can't think of a way to build them into a team when it's already moved this fast. So the meta right now is better than it was in Ike is Life, Ike is Love days, which did last a really long time. But I do think it's a bad sign that, to me, it feels like CYL8 is just a reset on the meta. It's like, it really does feel to me in a way that almost no other banner has ever felt like. Maybe the banner where they introduced saves and do a leaf is comparable, but this banner feels very much like you need these units. You need to use these units. You need to use all or almost all of these units in all 4 seasons of Aether Raids, all 4 blessings of Aether Raids to even have a chance. And that just doesn't sit right with me, and I feel like it does go back to my classic Ascended Forum video essay about a regressive meta, where it just hit me as I was sitting down to record this, but Brave Felix is just Fallen Edelgard. He gets more actions than the other units in the game. He has built-in distant counter. He has DR piercing that is really hard to hit through with the tools that we currently have available. He has a preferred B skill that does too many things, so many things that it even includes Phantom Speed, which no one really understands why it's there. It's just Fallen Edelgard. It's just Fallen Edelgard, but I think significantly more difficult to counter because as strong as the unit was upon release, at least there were some things holding her back, like being an armor unit, not having 20 movement, having 1, maybe 2. And I feel like the fundamental problem here is that, like, Fae is not a trading card game, right? If this was... I should use Magic the Gathering as an example, but I never played it. I did play Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in the day. In Yu-Gi-Oh!, like, Metal Raiders set comes out, you get all 70, 100? I honestly don't remember. However many cards are in that set, they all come out at once. And you can use all of them against all of them for the entire time that set is relevant and legal. Here, we pretty much get the set over the course of 6 months, maybe a year, depending on how you, like, view power spikes and power creep to be happening. And that does mean that when we hit the spike, which I think happened at CYL 8, and I do think that this spike is higher than most in the game's history, it just puts the game in a really weird place for a few months until we sort of have time to catch up. And what I really dislike the most about this is that by making it feel like so many other units are irrelevantized, either by, like, not being able to take the hits, or by, like, being thrust into a role that they simply lack the tools to function in the current demands of the meta, like, Felix is an extra action to break ice. Any unit that doesn't have that almost can't play. Like, I really do think that's significant. It just makes every unit that comes out so important to get, right? Like, I have 1,000 units saved up, probably, or something close to that. And it really feels like right now I can actually play on a high level with, what, like, maybe 15 of them? Depending on how you count, like, mythics and supports and, like, arena score bots, etc, etc, etc. It just feels bad. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I don't have a problem with power creep. I like when the game advances. And I do actually... This one we just watched, I'm sorry. I think it is, we're just gonna play it again so I can finish my thought. I don't think power creep is necessarily a bad thing. I like when the game moves forward, I like when new space is opened up, but the recent power creep to me feels like it is closing off so much more of the game than it's opening up. I do like that units are coming with really interesting and good fodder recently, and I think that the Ice Tribe banner, Duo Fjorm is sort of an exception to this, but I think that it was a much better example of power creep in my mind, because the other 5-stars in the banner are Thea and Felicia, and I think they both represent power creep in ways that I actually like a lot. Thea is pretty simple, it's Duocatria, but a little bit more modernized, like, has some flat DR, has some built-in DR, has some built-in DR piercing, just more stats, more damage, more survivability, and really strong fodder that a lot of units can actually like, has the whole charge thing and the C slot, like, just a support unit also drops Canto, so it's just, like, a modernized version of a classic support that was a fun unit to use, a really fun unit to use. I always enjoyed, well, I mean, I didn't always enjoy fighting against Catria, but Catria was a fun unit. Catria was an iconic part of the game, and it's cool to see a modernized version, even though it's not super relevant right now. Like, another thing that unit does is actually have a pretty high resistance stat, so like, it does counter the Catria counter in Elamine, which is interesting. But, you know, imperfect and just not really what the game needs right now. Although, in this Fjorm meta, getting the quad might be really important. Maybe that unit is slept on and better than people think. I don't know about that. I don't know anything. I don't have her. But I think Felicia is actually like the perfect example of power creep. A perfect example of power creep in the game right now, to me, just because, is that this one? That was this one. Whatever. Maybe it wasn't. We're gonna run it again. What I like about Felicia is she provides an effect that people have wanted for a really long time. A way to get NCD on non-infantry units. Or without spending a skill slot, because now we have, you know, so many other B slots, even so many echoes that are maybe more valuable, right? Like having Guard Echo or times Pulse Echo, both can be better than Null C Echo when you can just have it buffed onto your unit by Felicia. But the way she does it is with a visible buff that also nulls Dragon Effectiveness, which again is an effect that is really desirable and strong and kind of opens up some new space, like costs a whole team unit who is not that strong in combat, but somewhat strong in combat in the form of Felicia. But what I love about this is that it relies on this visible buff and proximity, which means that there are ways to mess up movement, take away buffs, these sort of, like, it has these counters. It's not 100% consistent, but the ways that it's countered are mostly things that also have counterplay, like the buff stealers are Mythic Loki, you can position around, or like, Tina, who you can stack more buffs on someone else so it doesn't get stolen. It has fun counterplay, it opens up new space in the game, it gives an effect that people actually wanted. I don't feel like people actually wanted what Felix does. I understand it's very fun to play with, I've been using him and having fun, but playing into it is so miserable, it's just terrible. So I think that the Ice Tribe banner outside of Fjorm represents a more healthy, sustainable approach to power creep, and I like that. There's the whole issue of like Fagato being like the Fjorm counter, so it's now like, you know, every banner has like an answer to the previous banner. Except also like Bernie is the unit that beats Fjorm, which is weird, and she also just makes everything so much harder with like Vantage Desperation on your units. It's a CYLA was really, really good banner. Really, really good banner. And again, just to me the problem here is that you gotta pull new units right now if you want to be able to actually play the game. It does feel that way to me, and I'm sure people are finding ways to use older units and being very successful with that, but I bet they need the fodder from the new units, so it's kind of like got you coming or going. I miss the old days when, like, there was a time when I was trying to use... Oh, what was it? Who was the... I think I was trying to use, like, OG Mur to tank Oter or something? Like, that was a strategy I came up with that kind of worked. That was fun. I would like to be able to do that again, but it doesn't feel... And I understand that some, like, after a certain amount of time, a unit is not going to be in the meta anymore, right? I'm okay with Brave Ike not being super meta anymore, but when it's, like, a unit like Duo Byleth is now just... What can I... Are they just fodder for Marnie? Do I just sack my copy? Is that all there is? Doesn't feel like a super healthy matter right now, but like I was saying, maybe when the full set comes out, it'll feel a lot better, and we'll have more time to naturally get pieces, and if gameplay units keep being as strong as Marty, maybe things won't be so bad. I honestly don't know. But I dislike the extent to which this feels like a meta reset to me. I've said that several times, but I'm trying to hit that point really hard because I think that is my fundamental thesis. I dislike the extent to which you just need a whole new barracks at this moment, it feels like to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Comment down below and tell me how and why I'm wrong. I'd love to know. Maybe you can make me enjoy this game a little bit more. And as a parting thought, a little bit off topic, but this was touched on, I would just like to submit for your consideration why times pulse echo and not times pulse gecko? Anyway. Till then.